All right. So it is 1:00 and I want to get started on time because you guys are here on time. So, hi Maria, how's it going?
Hello, good. How are you?
Good. Okay, so do any of you guys have any pressing things that you wanted to talk about and mastermind around today? They don't have to be pressing, just anything.
I'm actually not familiar with the format, so I'll just kind of eavesdrop.
Okay. So basically what we're doing in a mastermind is we are talking about different issues, struggles, things that we're dealing with. And we kind of are, instead of me necessarily leading the whole thing, it's everybody chiming in and saying, hey, did you think about this? Do you think about this? This is what I've done. This is what works for me. So it's really just talking about really truly masterminding together and saying, how do we come up with the best outcome? So that's the goal of this, is to really just put all of our thoughts and opinions and everything on the table and see what we can pull away and pick out as, you know, some best practices for us. So anyone have anything to address this week?
I kind of do. I'm wondering, does anybody use, like I'm trying to do, if you can't tell by the WhatsApp, CMAs. And I'm wondering, like, how do you come up with how much to adjust for an extra bathroom or square footage or anything like that? Is there like a some kind of source that you that anyone likes to go to know like how much per square foot you would add, subtract, bathroom, that kind of thing, if that makes sense?
Yeah, that does make sense. Any thoughts? Rick has something.
Yeah, I like to use Realtors Property Resource, and I'm not sure what MLS you're on, but on the Matrix, I think it's on any of them. Like when you first log in, there's different apps that you can use that are presented by National Association of Realtors that are free to us or discounted, and one of them is RPR, and it's got a lot of good information on there.
I love that. And I'm working on that, and then getting into the detail of that, like you need to adjust, like let's say one house has one less bathroom, so you want to adjust $5,000 or whatever amount. And I'm wondering, how do we come up with that whatever amount to try to do it a little more accurately?
There's so many different ways to do it. I don't know that any of it would ever be completely accurate, but you know, just take your best shot, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is, yeah, you don't know if that bathroom might be bigger square footage, but not as remodeled as the other one. You know, there's so many different things involved.
Okay.
But you can refine them in that app. You can refine them completely by that if you want to take the time to do that, and it does work that way. If you knew the cost of everything, but
right, that's a little.
Yeah, sorry, Emily, what were you going to say?
I've been using price per square foot just across the board. It seems to be the thing that people can understand best. And then, you know, obviously you're like, well, you know, this is the average price per square foot of homes in a 2-mile radius of the homes that you're looking at. And then you break it down as to, you know, this one's a fixer and this one isn't. And so but that kind of has been the easiest way to level the playing field, is to just find the average price per square foot of the houses that I'm using for the comps, and then go outward from there.
Okay. I like that. I'm probably thinking too much into it, like I do with my entire life, but yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Is there a resource to find appraisals that have been done on homes, you know, that have sold? Or is there a way you can see those, or are those private information to that sale?
Pretty sure that's private, huh?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if it is public record. I've not ever tried to look into that, so I'm not 100% sure.
I think it's private because I mean, only the lender needs that.
Right.
So it doesn't have anything to do with escrow or the transaction. It's just for the lender. If you buy cash, you don't need one. So I don't
Right.
think it's public information.
But
And then I
what-
guess that
but
the
what
market
is-
price. Go ahead.
Yeah, the sales price.
I was just gonna say, what is public is what it was appraised at and the square footage, and from that you can determine what you need to, most likely.
Oh, that is public, what it was appraised for?
No,
Well,
yeah,
except
but-
that if it
No.
wasn't appraised, like what Val's saying, if it was a cash offer, it doesn't need an appraisal.
Right.
So if it wasn't appraised, then it wouldn't necessarily have that.
And then I
Right,
know
I'm
the
just saying
market.
she
sorry.
asked for the appraisals if we had access to them, and that part you would have access to. If it was appraised, you would know the price because it would be. public
Well,
record.
as part of that, if you're part of the, the transaction, I could see where, but if you're not part of the transaction. Yeah.
It would. Okay,
price per square footage is based on the sales price, not on the appraised value of the house.
Well, and I know the market's gonna drive it anyway. The appraisers look at the market values, right?
Yeah, but
I want to know what Rick has to say. You know,
Yeah, right.
Just put something
I'm
in your mouth,
waiting.
but I know.
It's bad timing here.
because just because I know that I want to know if
My
there is a
que-
place
my-
that you're saying you can find it.
my point was, if a house has closed and that it appraised at value, then
But you
I
don't
mean-
know if it appraised that value, if you're
Right,
not
I
part
had
of
a-
that
all you
transaction.
gotta do is call the other agent. Most of them will tell you. And if you take that and whatever the value was, and you know the square footage, which is public record, you can figure the price per square foot. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering, Nina, because once you have a closed sale, even if it appraised for way higher, that now is a new value point. And so now the appraisal is going to be totally different. So I don't know that there is a place that's public record that you can just go and see all the appraisals, if that's what you're asking. I don't know that you could do that.
Across it anyway.
Yeah. And I don't know that it matters once you have a closed sale. It doesn't matter if it appraised for $200,000 less than it sold for, because once you have a closed sale, that's a new valuation point for the whole neighborhood. Or if it closed for way less, that now sets the market for that neighborhood for the next house that closes. So in that way, I don't think it really necessarily matters what other houses were appraised at. Because especially remember when everything was going up so fast, everybody was waiving appraisals because they were saying, I don't care if it appraises $100,000 less, I'm going to pay this amount because I want this house. And then things started appraising at value. And so we didn't really have an issue with that because everything was going up so quickly. So it's really more of an art than a science. And so Michelle, back to your question about like, can you add on an extra $5,000 for an extra bathroom? You really can't, because if it's $1 million property or, $5 million property, adding on an extra bathroom may or may not make any kind of a difference, or it may add on $50,000, not just $5,000. So it totally depends on the property. What I would say is when you're looking at the comps, you're looking to see, okay, these houses closed, these houses had 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. Yours has 3 bathrooms and things with other 3 bathroom houses are closing at this amount. So you can kind of just look and see. I think that what Emily was saying, the thing that is kind of, especially if you're having a really hard time, like you don't have something with that is a 3 bedroom, 2 bath or whatever, then going by price per square foot is going to be the easiest to figure out and to help your clients wrap their heads around. But it is more of an art than a science. Doing these valuations are definitely something that it's not just, like smack it on and you're good. Another thing to take a look at, and we talked about this in group coaching a little bit, but you want to also remember that you want to look to see what all the buyers in the area are seeing. So if you're pricing your listing at 400,000, what else in the area is for 400,000? Is it going to be total dumps? Is it going to be like a beautiful house on the beach? Probably not. But you know what I mean? Is that you have to just look and see, okay, in this whole town or this whole region, you know, buyers are not looking in one teeny tiny neighborhood, most likely. They're looking across, you know, 3 different cities that they would be okay with. And so you want to look at all of that and you want to say, okay, for this price point, here's what we're seeing. And it's especially important when your buyer is, I mean, it's important when you're trying to price, but it's especially important when your buyer is trying to price it too high, because you're going to be able to say, okay, here's the price that you want. And look at these houses that are priced at this. They are, you know, 10,000 square feet bigger than yours, or they're totally redone and yours is a dump, or, you know, whatever. You're not going to say that, but it's that idea that you want to see what are buyers looking at, because when we look at what buyers are looking at, that's when it's going to help us to adjust those prices a little bit more. When we look at just the neighborhood, that's what an appraiser is going to look at. But again, if you're pricing it right and you get a bidding war going, you can just ask them to waive the appraisal, and then you don't care what it appraises at. So that's why it's kind of like, do your best, but there really is no like, this is exactly what it is. Especially because like, even if you say a pool, if you have a pool, it adds an extra $15,000 worth of value. But what if it's like totally fully remodeled and it's a resort style pool? Is that still only adding $15,000 worth of value? Probably not. It's probably adding more than that. So it just really, it really depends. And it depends more so than what you think. Depends on what the market thinks, on what the buyers think. Good question. What else?
I just want to add to that. The appraisal is public record. I had a incident where my client was the buyer and we did an appraisal on a home and we ended up falling out of escrow. The sellers wanted that appraisal report. My buyer did not want to give it to them because she paid for it. It was hers. She didn't want to give it to her. She did not want to budge, even though I told her you kind of do have to give it to them. The seller was like, we want it. We're going to take you to court if we don't give it to us. And I'm just like, yo, like, my buyer doesn't want to give it to you. Like, it's hers. And then after like 2-3 threats, I ended up calling her to try to sort it out. And then she's like, it's over with. We don't even need it. I was like, I talked to my lender. My lender knows the website where it's public knowledge. So we were able to get access to that appraisal report. And I was like, great, because my buyer was not going to give it to you guys. And then she was like, all right, well, no. I was like, I'm so sorry we had to end it like this. She goes, no worries. We got what we wanted. So we're good. So, all right, have a good one. So it is public, at least. And then I called my lender. Yeah, I called my lender right after. And then my lender did confirm that there is a website where they can go to get all that appraisal report. But
so that's what yeah, so that's what I was going to say too, is just like what you said, you may want to reach out to your lender and see if you can get an appraisal report if there is one. Because the appraisal does go with the property for like 6 months, I want to say. And so if that's the case, then you can still use it and the lender can have access to that. So yeah, they must have a way. And maybe it's something that they can share with you. Although, like I said, it doesn't really matter for our purposes to have that. For pricing purposes and things like that, doesn't really matter. It matters what properties were closed at and how long they sat on the market and all of that kind of thing. So
they wanted the report because we closed escrow, so we were pulling out. They still needed the report for their next buyer. Or at least they wanted the report for the next buyer because, like you said, 6 months on the property. And I try to get my buyers to like, you guys don't need it, you know, like, what's the point of having it? And they're like, no, we paid for it, it's ours, we don't want it. I'm like, all right. So
did you get those buyers into contract again?
I have not. I've been reaching out to them and they actually ghosted me, so I just gotta do my follow-ups.
Yeah. well, if there are buyers that are that interesting about, I do not want to give this appraisal. It's may not be
Yeah.
they probably won't close ever anyway.
Right.
I've had a few situations like that where I'm like, you know what, this is okay. Bye. So I feel like I always like to talk about this kind of thing whenever I lead the masterminds. But one of my questions for you guys is, it is February 7th, almost the middle of February, which means we're almost to March, which means we're almost at the end of the first quarter. That is crazy to think about like that, I think. So where are we on our goals? How are we doing in our goals? Remember, you should be about 8% of the way towards your goals by the end of January. And the spring and summer are the most important time. So if you have a goal of 20 houses to sell, you really want to have sold 15 of them probably by spring and summer. And so how are we doing with our goals? How are we feeling about that? What do we think we can change? How can we press the gas to make sure that our goals are being achieved?
I think you can never talk about that too much, Brittany. So, I mean, when you're aware of your goals and where you're at with them, it's just a huge motivator for me. So,
Well, okay, let's see a show of hands. Who feels like they are on track with their goals so far? February 7th, are you on track with your goals?
yeah, I think so.
Okay, so we have a few. Good. I like that. For those of you who are not, what are you feeling like you need to do to make it so that you can be on track? Because just because you're not on track today doesn't mean you can't turn things around in the spring and get right back on track, if not surpass your goals. So what do you think needs to happen for you to turn it around?
Well, I think for me, it'd be having realistic goals, because I just didn't, it's just hasn't been realistic for me. And then once you do that to yourself, then it just is a real uphill battle. And so you just have to, I think you just, for me, I'd have to really be like, okay, you can't just throw a number out there. You've got to be a little bit more specific about why you think this is what you can do, and how can you make sure that that is achievable for you. So that's where I am.
Yeah, I like that, because when we talk about the SMART goals, achievable is one of them. We want to have big goals, but we also like the stretch goals, but we also want to say, I know when I was talking with Jodi, one of the things we talked about was, I was like, this is what I want, but this is what I need. And so she's like, okay, let's create your goals based on what you want, but we have this bottom line number to say, this is what has to happen for me to survive. And that was a good way for me to do it, because Nina, like you're saying, if I was saying, oh, this is what I want, and then I started to get off track, I'd be like, oh, but that's a big goal anyway, so who cares? I don't really need to focus on that. And then
I was really serious.
yeah, exactly. Oh, that was just like, that was a dream, so it's fine if it doesn't happen. And then I don't have any actual goals to aim for. So that for sure, I hear that, is you have to make sure that they are attainable, because if they're not attainable, then they end up being like pie in the sky and we just forget about them.
Yeah. And I think that's a very good point that you made with Jodi. Bottom line, you've got to have, hey, this is the bottom line of what's going to pay back my expenses and get me, to where, that number is that I want to earn. And so anything over above that, once you get rolling and you're like, whoa, this is going good, then, you readjust and you just say, hey, now my bottom line's even better.
Exactly. We can always readjust. We can always go back and readjust. But the problem is that we're not readjusting. We're just forgetting about it, usually, is what happens with our goals. What about the rest of you? What do you guys think is something that you can do to kind of shift your track to get back on track?
Close a transaction.
How do you do that?
Follow up with my clients that I have right now and see where they're at.
Lori just said something yesterday that I've heard before, but I was like, ooh, that's a good reminder. What does it say? There's no point, she said, there's no point in trying to get new clients if you're not following up with the clients you already have. So you already have clients, you already have people who have said that they're willing to work with you, probably. Follow up with them. They're going to be a much easier sale than going out and getting brand new clients. And that is your SOI, by the way. Those are people who already know, like, and trust you. Even if they're not looking to sell right now, maybe they know somebody who is. Maybe they can be a referral for you. So we always want to keep that in mind, is that we, like, follow-up is so important. Follow-up is more important sometimes than doing that lead gen where we're just trying to get people who don't know us at all. It's more important to do that follow-up because, like I said, those are easier deals to close than the people who you're just calling out of the blue.
Yeah, I had a open house this weekend. I had my cousins come by, and one of them, I guess his mom's going through a divorce, and it was like, oh yeah, when when she wants to sell her house or whatever, she's like, I'm gonna go to you, because I had an open house, my first open house, but I made a mistake. And I was like, yeah, let me know and see what we can find for you, and trying to host more open houses, so I can just build the rapport, like, online and on my YouTube and my Facebook and whatever. And so people can, be like, oh, he's, posting open houses or whatever. Maybe these are, his listings, whatever. And then it builds, like, trust, and they're like, oh yeah, maybe this guy's trustworthy.
Yeah,
So,
he's busy, he's working, people are willing to
yeah,
work with him. So it means that he is exactly trustworthy.
yeah, I made a mistake on the open house because I guess I didn't lock the back door. Made a big mistake, and the agent almost lost her listing, but she didn't, thank God. But mistake. I guess it was a learning lesson.
Yeah, you'll never do that again.
Yep.
You know what? I've done so many stupid things. I still do stupid things every day. And because that, first of all, that's just me. This, like, my brain is in 10,000 different places. I can take as many omega-3s as I want. I'm still going to be a little loopy. And the reality is, it's so much better about how you follow up with it and how you, like, what your, what am I trying to say? Like, what your feedback is, like how you apologize, basically. That is so much more important than doing everything perfectly. So, not to say don't do that, who cares? Obviously, this is a big deal. We want to care about safety, all of that kind of thing. But it's so much more important to say, oh, I'm so sorry, I'll never do that again. That was something that I should have known. I shouldn't have done that. I'm so sorry. How can I make it up to you? Like, we want to make sure that we're not just saying, sorry, who cares? Glad you didn't lose a listing. We want to make sure that that is our posture, is that we are saying, okay, I'm coming from humility, saying, this is my bad. I messed up. I'm going to move forward and not do that again and learn from it. That's so much more important than saying, this is fine, I'll just not do it again.
Yeah, that's what I told her. I was like, yeah, I'm sorry. It was my first open house. She was like, oh, you're a new agent? Yeah, I'm a new agent. That was my first open house, and apologized to her. And then she was like, yeah, don't ever do that again. Don't leave the doors unlocked. And
Maybe you should just have, you should tell her, okay, next time I do an open house for you, when I'm ready to leave, I'm going to call you and say, okay, I've locked everything up. Is there anything else you need me to do? So that, you kind of reach out to her, and then she feels better, like, okay, now he is going to reach out to me and make sure that he's doing
yeah,
what
I think that's what I'm gonna do next time, because I was calling her because I was trying to put, like, the key back in the lockbox, and it wasn't letting me. So I was like, I made a mistake probably closing it, and I was trying to call her and she never answered. So I was like, just hold on to the keys. And I think it just, like, it just didn't I didn't do my due diligence and didn't triple check like I should have, and that was a mistake. So,
but we live and learn.
Live and learn. Yep.
I've done so many. I've locked keys in the house before when it's like a vacant listing and they're like, everybody's out of town, I don't know how we're going to get in. And I'm like, sorry. I mean, what am I going to do about this? There's nothing I can do. I locked the keys in the house. I have taken people to the wrong house taking clients to the wrong house, and I'll be like, this doesn't look at all like the MLS photos. This is so weird. Wait, there are 4 bedrooms in here, and on the MLS it says 3. This is strange. And then I realized, whoops, it's a house down the street. Let's go there. I've done so many things that, and still it's the attitude that you have when you're apologizing or when you're trying to make it right. It's not about saying like, oh, who cares about that. It's really about the attitude that you have when you are coming back and trying to make it right.
Yeah, I think the only problem for me is like communication. It's like I had a lot of people were coming, we had a lot of people coming, a lot of couples, and they liked the house and stuff like that. But I think my communication wasn't all there, I wasn't like, oh, what is it you're looking for? Or stuff like that. I think that's what my mistake was. I would say like, welcome in, we had some snacks, got some snacks, and I said, yeah, take a look around. There's some flyers right there, some information about the house and the market, whatever. And take a look at it, and if you have any questions, let me know. And I think that was my mistake. I didn't ask them enough questions. So
what are your for the room? Oh, Michelle, did you want to say something?
Oh, I was just gonna add to that though, because I did my first open house a couple weeks ago, and I felt the same way. My one and only people that walked in, I felt like I didn't do this anything like what I was trained. I didn't ask the questions. I didn't make sure, but I had a long conversation with them and got to know them on a personal level. And then now they've been talking about moving for 14 years, but one of them like never wanted to take that jump, didn't want to do the paperwork, didn't want to go through anything, didn't want to, do anything. And now I've built a relationship with them where now they're finally, like, I got them to allow me to have a lender call them today to start paperwork process. And now I've got them engaged in wanting to sell and buy. And they one of them made a comment that they know I'm new, but they never really, one of them never wants to trust anybody or talk to anybody. And so I was able to engage that just by being personable and talking. I didn't ask all the right questions or do all the right things at all, but I developed a relationship with them, and now they feel comfortable enough with me to move forward for the first time. And in, like I said, 14 years they've been talking about doing it and haven't even gone as far as I've got them in a few days. So I mean, my personal opinion, maybe I'm wrong. Right now, I'm terrified to let them down. I'm terrified I'm going to do something wrong. But I mean, maybe it isn't all about making sure you have the right questions all the time, like a textbook, but just developing a relationship, getting to know people. And then am I right? Or, making them feel like not making them feel like, but growing a relationship of trust with each other. And then it kind of develops. I don't know. That was my experience.
That's really helpful for me because I feel like I have huge gaps in my skill set, and I don't know a lot of things. And so if I can fall back on, my ethics and building trust, that will help me overcome the lack of knowledge until I get where I need to be. So thank you.
But I think we have to remember too that we know way more about real estate than they do. And I know, when you first start out, it is nerve wracking, and it's always going to there's always an element of nerves with it until you're in it for many, many, many years. But I just, I think it's really helpful to say, hey, I'm actually the expert because I studied a lot about this. And so I know a lot more than they do. I just have to have that confidence in myself come across type of thing.
I appreciate that, Nina, because you're right. I mean, that's what I just needed to hear.
Yeah.
Well, and you have the access to all the information, right? Like I just closed an escrow on something that was probate, and even some, like, it was really hard to find out what exactly, like, I tried Googling stuff and everything, and but just having, like, also not being, I was really proud of myself for asking all the questions to the coaches. Like, there was a time when I was an Ask a Coach pretty much every day with my list of questions. And, to my clients, I'd always say, I think it's like this. but I want to verify this, or I want to double check. Let me confirm this information. I never said I have no idea. I always said, ooh, probate's a little complicated. I want to verify that and make sure that we have all the information. And then that seemed, and it was the truth. And then I was at Ask a Coach. So
I would
Yeah.
always do the same as
ahead.
Valerie, and pretty much exactly the same script. I would only add is like, I would tell them I'm paying for coaching, because like we are. So I let them know I'm paying for coaching because I want to put my clients in the best position, to move forward. So I have access to all this information. So even if you have a question that I don't have the answer to right now, I can definitely get that,
So my clients had no idea that this was my first deal, and they never asked. And so, and all like, apparently I didn't give them, I didn't make them feel like it was, otherwise maybe they would have asked, but just knowing that I have that access made me, I would have told them if they had asked me, but they didn't. And just knowing that I have the access, I felt okay doing it like that, because I knew I would verify everything and I would double check everything. So I feel like
Yeah.
it kind of depends on the people. I feel like, these guys, I was like, I hope they don't ask me, because they don't want to work with a first-time agent for sure.
It definitely depends on your client and the relationship you have with them. But I agree. My second transaction ever was like a 1.4 million. And I was like, I come across as confident even when I know nothing. So I was like, oh, this is what it is. And I would do exactly what you guys are saying. You know what? This is my understanding. Let me go back and verify it just to make sure. And that's exactly what I would do. And I'd be like, this is what I said. Is this right? And if ever anything was wrong, I'd be like, you know what? I misspoke. Here's what it actually is, blah, blah, blah. And these clients, first of all, love me to this day, love me, and wrote me a review saying I was the best agent they had ever worked with. I was on top of everything, which you guys know. That is not me. On top of everything, that is not something that people would say about me. And I was like, okay, good. I was able to fool her. And since we've become friends, she was like, oh my God, that was only your second transaction. You are amazing. And I was like, whew.
Well, but you're probably also on top of everything because you were like, that's what I was like. I was terrified to have any mistakes or anything happen. So I would like at night write down everything that I thought could possibly go wrong, then go to Ask a Coach, ask all the questions, and then I was probably more under control than an agent that had done it 10 times and doesn't really worry about it. It's like, oh yeah.
That is true, because I do make a lot of mistakes now that I'm like, that was dumb. Why did I do that? Because I'm not as like, oh, I have to like get everything perfectly right. And then I'm like, oh, whoops. Okay, I'll just fix it later on. But I would not have done that my first few transactions. So that is probably 100% accurate. Okay, so back to the open house conversation about, what kind of questions do you ask? What kind of things do you talk about? I want to open it up to all of you guys and see, what do you have success with when you talk to clients, or to people who walk into your open house? How do you get them to sign in? How do you get them to engage you in conversation? How do you get it so that you can move from some random person who walks in one day to a potential client to, I know some of you have closed deals with open house people before. So how do you do that? I want to hear from a few of you.
How about people that walk up thinking it's an open house and then somebody says, talk to Rick, and then they become my client.
There you go. That's nice. Who says talk to Rick?
You did.
Oh, I forgot about that. How did that turn out?
It was amazing. I got these people I just nurtured them for a while, didn't hear from them. They dropped off the face of the planet. And just a little backstory for everyone else. We were filming, what was it, for like an open house training video with Jodi. And this guy walked up thinking it was an open house, and I was inside, and I came out, and Brittany said, oh, there he is right there. Talk to Rick. And I talked to him and, nurtured him for a long time. I thought it's not going to turn into anything, but I kept sending emails and checking in. And then one day he says, hey, do you got a local lender we can plug in with? And I'm like, yeah, and hooked it up. And we ended up getting the offer based on terms, not price. And we closed in 11 days and he was so stoked that because he went with everyone that I could set up, and it was amazing. And he gave me a killer review. And then when I asked for the review, he goes, yeah, I will. I can't let my wife though, her sister's a real estate agent. And I go, oh, I said, well, why didn't you go with her? And he said, well, the reality is when we text back and forth about family, it might be days before we hear back from her. I don't want that in a real estate agent. You always got right back to me. And so I'm like, sweet, and he turned out to be a fellow drummer, and it was awesome. It was pretty cool. So
I had no idea that you closed a deal with him.
yeah, I thought you did. Yeah. Like I'm still haven't figured out what kind of gift is going to be meaningful enough to give you, but I am going to at some point. Yeah, that was super awesome. So,
well, good. I'm glad that worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is one thing we talk about. We talked about this at some group coaching at some point or something. I don't remember where it was. Maybe it was a retreat where we were talking about the value of going in person to things. And, I think there's a high value of being able to do Zoom because you can do it from wherever. I'm in Morro Bay right now, but really I could be in Pismo, I could be in Oxnard, I could be in Puerto Ranch, I could be anywhere, and I can still do this mastermind with you. So there's a value to Zoom. Pam's in the car, she can be driving, listening in, we definitely have it. There is value, but there's also value to going in and being in person. One of the things too is, like Val and I, we're doing a deal together right now. That is only because she is in person all the time. And so I see her a lot and I'm able to talk with her and just, have these, little connecting conversations so that I could be like, oh, okay, I want to do this. What do you think about this? Yeah, I'll do that. Okay. And so we're able to do that. Whereas I wouldn't necessarily be able to do that with somebody if I wasn't in person or if they weren't in person. So there is value to being in person, and just, like with Rick, that was like right place, right time, because I'm not going to try and get that client. It was in the Central Coast. I'm not a Central Coast agent. And so I just called him over and I was like, hey, Rick knows all about this. And he was able to get a client and close a deal. So there's definitely value in being in person and being present in the office, because when you talk about, people call in to your market center leaders all the time to say, like I did this before we were really doing all this PC coaching. I had somebody to refer up to the Central Coast, and I called in and I said, hey, who is a good agent in your area? And they told me, oh, this person, to refer me to them. People do that all the time. People call into your market centers and ask. If you're there, if you're in person, if they know you, if they see that you're working, they're going to be like, oh yeah, Nina's so great, contact her. If you're never, ever, ever there, they're going to be like, is Brittany even still in real estate anymore? I don't know.
And also the random help that I got from my deal too, like that only happened because people saw me around and stopped by my office and were like, oh, are you in escrow? And I'm like, yeah. And then I was like, oh, actually this and this and this. And then I got like a super quick answer rather than an email or a phone call or scheduling something. It was just a yes or no for a very experienced agent. But for me, it was, big help. So that was definitely a good thing to come in a lot.
Yeah, there is value to it. And I don't think that you necessarily have to go in every single day, but I think that wherever we were talking about this, I cannot remember, but I was saying, one of the things for me is that I feel like I'm starting over as a new agent, because last year I was focused on coaching and that's what I was doing, but buying and selling real estate pays the bills. And so that's what I need to focus on this year. And I feel like I'm just getting started again. Obviously there's, just like we're talking about today, it's very different getting restarted now than getting started as a brand new agent. You guys know this. You, like Nina, just like you were saying, even if you don't have tons and tons and tons of experience, if you've been doing this for any length of time, you know more than your clients. And you have access to the resources. You have access to the coaches, access to, everything. But for me, I felt like going in person makes me more productive. And so going in person, even if I say one day a week, It makes me so much more productive than if I'm at home. Because while I'm not necessarily like a Netflix binger, I do that just after hours. But I don't do that during my quote unquote work hours, but I'll start making a 12-hour long recipe that is just for fun, or I'll go to the grocery store, or I'll be like, oh, this recipe calls for a cast iron skillet that I don't have. Maybe I should go shopping. I can fill my time with nonsense. And if I'm in the office, that just doesn't happen. It's not the same. You're not at home. You don't have to do laundry. You don't have to do the dishes. You don't have to do all the stuff that you have to do at home, or that you think you have to do at home. So going into the office, I think, is super, super valuable, and is something that you guys could, I would recommend doing it. Even like I said, even if it's like once or twice a week, I think it will up your productivity level, and building those relationships are going to be super important to your business, because you're in and around with people who are doing real estate. And if there's any referrals that come up, you're going to be top of mind for them. And so they're going to say, oh, you know what? Val's in the office a lot. She's killing it. She's going to be good. Let me refer this person to her. So anyway, just a little reminder that going in person and being there is valuable too. So even when we talk about doing in-person things, you know, we've told you a few times, we want to do these in-person things. We want to go in, we want to be with you, but then we go in and nobody's there. Everybody tells us we want more in person, and we go in and nobody's there. So even if you just said, I'm going to go in during when Brittany is in person doing the weekly workshops, and even if I don't get to talk to her, even if I don't, like, nothing else comes of it, I'm in there, I'm going to be in the workshop anyway. And so let me just be there, be present, and then talk to a few people, do your lead gen there, do whatever, just be working and be there. I think that's, I'm done off my soapbox. That's what I think is going to be super important.
Can I add to that? Have you guys considered doing masterminds in person, since with this new time frame at 1 o'clock? Because I think I'd probably attend. So
You
I
think
know
that what? It's probably what?
Would you guys be able to do in person with this new time frame, since you guys just got them changing it? Before it was at 11, now it's at 1. Have you guys talked about
So
possibly?
Jodi's the one who does this, and we know her schedule's crazy. So I'm not sure what that would look like for her, but we are trying to do more in-person events. But just so you guys know, we're looking at doing in-person events that are in-person only and not on Zoom also, so that you don't have the option of saying, oh, I'll just go on Zoom. We want you to come in person if you want to be in person. So I can't, there's never going to be a time when we're only exclusively in person for anything, because we do have so many different market centers and we're adding more. So we wouldn't exclusively be in person for things, but I do think that I know I'm doing more in person just because for my own business, I want to be in the office more. So that's kind of why I'm more often in person. And I am going to the different I'm trying to go to a few different market centers. But I know, unfortunately, Tulare is not one of the ones that I make my rounds at. But Lori and Jodi are both there. And I do believe that we are doing more in person there too. So when we're there, come in and see us. We want to see you. But it's also something that's good. We want to schedule one-on-ones with you to come in. Even if you don't have a scheduled one-on-one, we want to sit down and say, hey, how's it going? How's your business? What questions might you have? Whatever, so that it doesn't feel like, why am I going in? I don't know what to do once I'm there. Although, like I said, I think you should just go in and do your normal work day. Thank you. And go in and do your normal work day, and you can just talk to people who are there, talk to other agents who come in. There's a lot of value in that. Here's my puppy, Buford Banjo. And some of your offices are pet friendly, so you can even bring your little pups.
Which ones are? How do we know?
I mean, ours is.
Is it?
Uh-huh. Most
How do
of
we
them
know?
are. Most of them are because
Paso is, yeah.
I think it just depends. If there's somebody in the office who's allergic or something, then it wouldn't be. But
I didn't know that. So you could just bring your dog as long as they're quiet?
yeah, you've never seen me bring Blueberry?
No.
Oh yeah,
I've
he
seen
comes-
Jen bring her dog once, but I
Yeah.
thought, okay, like she has her own office and also she's like staff.
Yeah, I bring
So,
Blueberry. They keep treats
huh.
there.
But
Oh
it's
my
only for
gosh.
small dogs.
What'd you say, Carlos?
Only for small dogs. I got a Doberman.
I mean, I don't know. You gotta
As long
talk to
as he
them
doesn't
about that.
bark.
No,
I
she
have
does
two
it.
that are
She's
both
very,
over 100
very
pounds. I
calm
don't
girl.
think that would work.
Well,
I think it totally depends. It's like mental health for me to have my puppy there. So
same. I'm totally gonna bring Maya now.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Okay, so back to our mastermind. All right, so we started. Oh, look, there's a little kitty, mental health kitty. So we started talking about goals, and I want to circle back around to that. What are you going to do to make it so that by the time the first quarter ends, which is the end of March, beginning of April, what are you going to do to make it so that you are on track? So whether you're currently on track and you want to keep doing the same thing, what is that? Or if you're not on track and you need to get back on track, what is it that you're going to do? And I want to hear from everyone.
I just really want to be consistent with doing my work. I get distracted. I work for my husband as well, so I have other things going on. But I want to make sure I prioritize my lead gen, at least my lead gen in the morning, and just be really, really consistent with everything I've committed to and not get distracted.
Good. I love that.
For me, the open houses.
How many open houses do you want to do a month?
I mean, I'd love to do 2 for sure. And, just, I think 2 would be good for me.
2 a month?
2 a month.
Good.
And and then going into the office so that I can actually talk to agents who might have. Yeah, so those.
Yeah, that's another good point to that, is that you can talk to agents and say, hey, if you have any listings and anything coming up, because they, you might post it on Facebook or you might, say something about it, but if they don't know you, they're probably not going to reach out to you. Now, if you reach out to them, they may say, sure, you can do that. But if you're just saying, hey, I'm available to hold an open house, and they've never met you, a lot of agents wouldn't do that. So going in and saying, hey, I'm available to host an open house is going to be good.
So adding to that, I actually, I wanted to do open houses earlier this year, and it was kind of hard, I guess. And there was a big staff meeting, and I saw like who in the office had the most listings. And in the staff meeting, I saw the agent, and I walked up to her and introduced myself and said that I'm new, but I'm knowledgeable about this, this, and this. And I would love to help her with open houses if that was the possibility. And she plain out said yes, that they're always looking for help with that. And since then, I've heard from several agents that they have just been rejected from that same team. And I got an easy yes just by introducing myself and having a friendly and positive attitude. So I think that was a big, if I had just emailed them or texted them, no way. Why? They have enough people asking,
Yep. All right. So Val, since you're talking, what is it that you're going to do? What are you going to keep doing? Because you were one of the ones who said you're on track.
I'm on track right now, but I feel like, that next week I might feel different about that, where, I want to make sure that I keep pushing. I think my 3 kind of focus areas right now are that I still need to do kind of gentle follow-ups with my sphere. I think there are a lot of people that are kind of in the market soon, but I don't know. Also, they know that I'm newer at this, or they know that my husband and I fixed up properties, but they don't want something fixed up. So they think maybe I'm not which is not true, but maybe I'm not the right person for them. Like, I feel like there's some of that going also, friends and business. So I feel like I need to follow up with them, but I don't know that they're necessarily the best leads for me. So I think I need to focus on new lead gen, and I really want to door knock around the neighborhood and of the property that I just closed on, probably next week. I'm not going to have time this week, And then also continue to send out more letters to my own neighborhood where I live, where I introduce myself. I haven't finished that yet. And then come up with some kind of, like, these were kind of handwritten letters introducing myself to the neighborhood, but I want to get it into a system where I can just kind of send follow-up postcards. I feel like the first one was nice, handwritten, but then make it a little less time consuming for me. Just like set it up with a title company thing. And then my social media, I've
Also,
posted a lot about.
You can do postcards through command really easily.
Okay, yeah, it's just, that's a big database, but because like for the whole neighborhood, I was wondering if I should do the title, company
You can do that.
thing.
You can do that through command. You can
Okay.
do your whole neighborhood. You can say how long ago it sold for. You can say what if you just want single family, or if you want the multi,
or just like a market update or something. I just
whatever it
wanna
is you want to
easy
do.
postcards that
Whatever it is
keep
you
me
want to
at
do,
top
you
of
can do
mind.
that through command.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I kind of, in my head, command is for my database, and then like generic marketing is more title. But yeah, probably that's not true. Huh?
So here's the thing: if you wanted to send it to specific people, like you wanted to do only owner occupied, or you wanted to do investors only, or whatever, that's when you would want to go through title. But if you're just saying send it to a specific neighborhood, command is definitely super easy.
That's good to know. Yeah. And then my third thing is social media. I've posted a lot about my like just the renovations that we're doing, and then some of my agent, but I'm still like I'm struggling with the after, I don't know, like filming myself and being too much. Like, I know that all my friends and family are interested in my renovation project work, but like the whole market updates and doing that more, like the more influencer thing, I'm struggling a little bit with. So I recorded my first video on the beach the other day, but I haven't posted it yet. I think I'm gonna have to do it again.
Yeah.
Okay. Wait, Rick, were you gonna say something?
No, I'll go ahead and finish up.
That was it.
I was just gonna say, Michelle, give us some input on this, on the video thing.
Okay, so I hate video. I mean, this is bothering me right now, just my face being on screen. I hate looking at myself like this, hate it. So the video thing is a real struggle for me. I can't tell you how many I've made, and I'm like, no. So what I started doing is I started videoing around me instead of at me. Like, I would video the house and I would talk through it. And I use, let me look at my phone real quick. I use an app called CapCut, CapCut, and it allows me to take videos, edit the videos, and talk through it later, because also I hate my voice. I mean, I know I got to get past this stuff, but I would like video and talk through it. I'm like, I can't post that because that sounds terrible. And so what I would do is I would get on that app and I would delete that, or I would mute that voice, and I would watch the video on my phone and re-speak it. And then I would put some music in the background so that it wasn't just my voice. So it kind of, not muffled it, but it kind of, I don't know, you know what I mean? It made it not sound so all me. So that's how I do it, because I can't get past seeing myself on camera. I can't do it. So I have to film other things and talk through it. And I feel like it's the next best step other than filming your face. You're still talking, you're still there, but not looking at you, you're looking out there.
And then your next step, Michelle, is to film your face.
I don't know if I'll ever get there.
You'll get there.
I just want to add.
It takes a while, but like, even still, for me, you guys know I do stuff all the time. I walked into my mom's house the other day because she's my biggest fan, of course. And I heard myself and I was like, ugh, what are you listening to? And she's like, my favorite realtor. And I was like, turn that off. And so I totally get it. It's the same thing. Or I was like, at least listen to it on double speed. Hurry up and finish this, because I don't want to listen to that either. But I do it, and I just say, just press record and just go. Just do it.
So I mean, I don't want to condone not being in front of the camera, but I do follow this page that just put out this update that there's a website that you can go on and you just type in the paragraph that you were gonna say, and then you can have a selection of like 100 voices, female and male, and then they will say it for you. So you don't even gotta be in front of the camera, or or like you're saying, you hate your voice. You can literally go on that website. I mean, if you want it, I can send it to you. But yeah, you just pick a voice and let that voice, but it's not gonna be you, you know what I mean? So it's not gonna be, but there is apps and websites out there that you honestly don't even have to be your voice, your face, or anything. You could just put your information or type in the paragraph that you want, and then it'll be sent.
Yeah, I think that makes total sense. I think one other thing that I'm struggling with is just that, like, so I'm mainly Instagram, so everyone that, all my friends are following me, and I don't know, I just want to be a little bit careful of like marketing too heavy for my friends. If I talk to my Instagram camera as if I'm talking to this big audience of real estate enthusiasts, I don't like, I think that's what I'm struggling with a little bit.
What if you talk to your audience as if they were your friend?
Yeah, so the video I recorded a video of my face on that Silver Strand beach where I said, hey, I just picked up the keys and stuff. And I feel like that was a little bit like that. It was more like a life update. Hey, I'm so excited. This deal closed. I was excited to represent my clients and stuff. So I think, yeah, that's a good point. Make it a little more approachable.
You definitely don't have to be the one that's like, let me give you a market update and let me tell you how many houses have sold and let me tell you about interest rates. And
who am I kidding?
Yeah. Especially because
followers.
Yeah, people don't really care about that except to say, oh, they know she knows what she's talking about. And so I've told you guys, I have 2 separate accounts for like everything. It's a nightmare. I have like 4 separate accounts for certain things. It's a nightmare. Don't do that. If I were to start over today, I would have 1 account specifically for Instagram. I would have 1 personal and business account. I would not separate them out because exactly that, because there are so many people who are like, wow, Brittany, I didn't know that you knew so much about all of this. And I'm like, I don't, I just hear things from my lender. I get an update and I'll be like, hey, I was just in a meeting with the lender and this is what they told me. I thought that was super cool because some of you guys have asked me about blah, 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 whether they've asked me or not. Like I get these questions all the time because somebody asked them to the internet, whatever it is. You can go and have that kind of thing where you're just saying, hey, this is what I heard. And I know some of you guys have had these questions. And if I wish that was being sent out to everybody, because my friends who do follow my business page will say things like that. Wow, I had no idea that you know so much about these things or whatever. And so many more people would have known that if I would have kept it on my personal page. But I definitely think that you don't need to separate out your personal. You just need to sprinkle in both. You need to talk about your, like, even what you're saying, your own renovations. You need to talk about like, oh my gosh, we're super excited to have like handed over the keys today, and telling the story. You're just telling the story of, it doesn't have to have any names. You don't have to have any specifics. You're just saying, this is what happened and they're super excited to start their journey or whatever. So,
and I think, at this point too, it's also just showing people that I'm working and kind of like a more credibility piece. Yeah. And I can grow into the role.
I would say for all of you guys, video is super important. We just talked about this 2 weeks ago, last week, sometime in our workshop. So hopefully it'll come out soon. Video is super important. So you need to do video in some way, shape, or form. If that is walking around saying, look at this house, what would you do to it? And narrating and doing a voiceover like Michelle's talking about, whether it's holding it up and doing like talking about stuff, or whether it's like Carlos is saying and just putting the words in, because you can do that in certain, I know in TikTok you can do that. I don't know about in the Instagram Reels, but like it reads it for you. And I do that sometimes. Like if I'm posting something that it's like early in the morning and my voice is still like froggy, I don't want to be talking on it. And so I'll do it so that it's still speaking out loud, but it's not me. So you can do it in all different forms. But what I would say is start somewhere, because you definitely need to be on it somewhere, and then progress as you go, because eventually you do want to be on camera so that people are seeing your face and that you're a real person. So make sure that you are doing that at some point, just progressing through. So even if you're uncomfortable now, just do a little bit. And I promise you, nobody's going to be like, that was so lame. I can't believe you posted that. Because I have posted things that were like very cringy. And I'm like, oh, well, not a single soul has told me gross. And I have sisters that are savage. They will tell me when things are horrible. And I'm like, all right, I hear you. And still, they don't tell me that things are like the worst ever. So don't worry about it. Nobody's going to judge you like you judge yourself. So thank you all for your input. It's 2:00. I have to jump over to Ask a Coach. So if you have any more questions, jump over with me there. Val, are you coming over?
Yes,
Okay,
I
so
am.
we're actually